All right, let's talk about something that dooms countless projects before they even get off the ground. We're going to look at how to take team training from this last-minute, stressful panic into a smart, strategic advantage that you can and should actually budget for. This is how you set your projects up to win from day one. Let's get into it.
So here's the million-dollar question, right? It's the thing that probably keeps a lot of project managers up at night. You've got the money, you've got this beautiful plan, you've got the green light from everyone. So why do so many projects still end up going off the rails? Well, the answer is often hiding in plain sight, and a risk we almost always forget to account for. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to expose that hidden project blocker. Then we'll walk through the official playbook for building a real A-team. After that, we'll lay out a practical plan for getting your team proficient, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of budgeting for all that brainpower. And finally, we'll see how you can actually measure the results.
So, what is this invisible threat I'm talking about? It's the skills gap. It's that quiet, dangerous assumption we make that just because we've assigned people to a project, they have all the right skills to actually do the work. And that assumption, well, it's a huge risk. You really have to think about this. Staffing a project isn't just about filling seats, it's about solving a competency puzzle. Because when your team doesn't have the specific skills they need, everything starts to crumble. Productivity tanks, you're constantly redoing work, and team morale just hits rock bottom. Simply having bodies in chairs, that's not a plan. It's a recipe for disaster.
But here's the good news. There's a professional, totally structured way to deal with this. Project management best practices actually give us a formal process, a real framework that's designed specifically to build a team that can perform at the highest level. Let's take a look at what that is.
And here it is, right out of the PMP OK guide, which is basically the Bible for project managers. The process is called Develop Team. And I want you to notice those keywords, improving competencies. This isn't about team-building exercises or trust falls. It is a deliberate, strategic process for making your team better, smarter, and way more effective.
So how do we actually improve competencies? Well, if you look at the official process map here, what do you see listed as a primary tool? Training. See, it's not some afterthought or a nice-to-have perk. The guide treats it as a fundamental tool in your toolkit, just as important as your project schedule or your risk plan.
Okay, so if training is the tool, you can't just swing it around randomly. You need a plan, right? You need a solid blueprint that takes you from, we have a skills gap, to strategically closing that gap for good.
And the official PMP guide gives us this perfect 4-step blueprint. It's super logical. Step 1, figure out what skills you need. Step 2, look at your training options. Step 3, and this is really the core of what we're talking about today, allocate the resources. And Step 4, actually measure what happened. It's a clear path to building a much stronger team. So, Step 1 is all about that initial assessment. You have to look at your project goals and ask, what skills are non-negotiable for us to win? Then you look at your current team and you find the gap. That analysis, that gap between what you have and what you need, that's the foundation for your whole training strategy.
And once you know exactly what the gap is, you can figure out how to fill it. And as you can see, you've got a ton of options. It could be formal classroom sessions, online courses, or something more informal like on-the-job coaching or mentoring. The right choice always depends on the skill, your timeline, and of course, what you can afford.
Okay, let's get right to the heart of it. The money. How do we pull training out of that maybe if we have leftover money column and make it what it should be, a fully funded, non-negotiable line item in your actual project plan?
I mean, this quote from one of the most respected PMP guides says everything. It could not be clear. Training that is required for the project to succeed is a project cost, period. That means it has a home in your resource plan, and most importantly, it belongs in the project budget.
Now, this is a really important distinction to understand. If your developer needs training on a specific software just to complete this project, that's a project cost. It comes from your budget. But if the training is for a broader skill that helps the whole company, well, that might be an organizational cost paid by a different department. Knowing the difference is how you justify your request.
And to hammer this point home, look at where training fits in the world of accounting. It's a direct cost. That means it is directly tied to getting the specific project done, just like paying for materials or paying your team's salary. It is not some fuzzy, indirect overhead expense.
So here it is, the big takeaway. We have to completely reframe this conversation.
Budgeting for training isn't an expense you try to cut. It is a strategic investment you make to lower the massive risk of a skills gap and to actively make sure your project actually succeeds.
So you did it. You fought for the budget, you got the team trained up. What happens next? What's the payoff? What's the actual return on that investment you just made?
Well, the benefits are huge, and they're measurable. Of course, you get the better skills and teamwork you were aiming for, but you also get happier, more motivated employees who are less likely to leave, which saves a ton of money and time. And all of that rolls up into the ultimate payoff, better overall project performance. That's the ROI everyone wants to see.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about for your next project. When you sit down to plan your resources, are you only worried about the budget gap? Or are you also planning and budgeting to close that skills gap? Because as we've just seen, one of those is very often the hidden cause of the other. Thanks for watching.